Yesterday also, a bit of a postscript. You remember yesterday I talked about Marameno Kapa-Kīngi going off to the High Court to have blocked her expulsion from Te Pāti Māori. You might also remember yesterday that the hypocrisy of this particular court case held in the Wellington High Court yesterday is simply astounding, given that we have been lectured repeatedly over years now by most, in fact all of the participants who are either in the defendant or in the plaintiff category for this court case. We have been lectured repeatedly about how despicable, dastardly, dangerous and dreadful the New Zealand justice and court system is for Māori folk in this country, and how, to use Marameno Kapa-Kīngi's own words, it's a fundamentally illegitimate racist tool of oppression designed to dispossess Māori of their rights and sovereignty. Okay, so let's just get this right again. Marameno, direct quote, Kapa-Kīngi describes the justice system in New Zealand not as the justice system but as the colonial justice system, fundamentally illegitimate, racist, a tool of oppression designed to dispossess Māori of their rights and sovereignty. And in actual fact advocated for what she said was the recognition and implementation of Tikanga Māori as the true basis for justice in Aotearoa. So that is Marameno Kapa-Kīngi prior to appearing in the High Court yesterday in Wellington, seeking the rampantly racist colonial justice system to save her from essentially Tikanga Māori. The extraordinary thing about the case yesterday is that it's actually only phase one. It's sort of like the curtain raiser for the big case. It was an interim case with Kapa-Kīngi's lawyer, also well known as a Māori activist, Mike Colson KC. Yes, I'm being ironic and he's not. Mike Colson KC is an extraordinary expensive lawyer, a former partner of Bell Glady, known as probably the greatest gougers and chargers in New Zealand law history. Anyhow, he left there to set himself up as a KC, extraordinarily expensive. He's Kapa-Kīngi's lawyer. Oh, by the way, John Tamahiri's lawyer is Davey Salmon KC from the Mills Lane Chambers, another extraordinarily expensive lawyer. They're both white. Anyhow, there they went off yesterday to the High Court and to appear in front of, one would expect, the fundamentally illegitimate racist and tool of oppression Justice Paul Radich, who will give a judgment today, an interim judgment only, at 4 o'clock, having listened to both cases for most of the day. And this is just, as I said, just phase one, and it's not the big phase, and it's poorly understood, I think. Certainly, I think the New Zealand Herald have done justice on this one, but other mainstream media haven't. This is just to get her reinstated in the interim. It's delicious, I have to say, from a popcorn perspective, watching this particular case. But she essentially was seeking three things yesterday. One, her reinstatement as a Te Pāti Māori member. Two, the ability, believe it or not, to go to the Te Pāti Māori's AGM at Rotorua this weekend. So that's why the judgment's got to be out 4 o'clock this afternoon, because she wants to be able to attend the Te Pāti Māori AGM at Rotorua. Talk about go to it doesn't matter anyhow. And three, she also wants to oust or have John Tamahiri removed as president of Te Pāti Māori. Those were the three things that her lawyer, the very expensive Mike Colson KC, was seeking on her behalf yesterday. She came out of the court case saying, "I'm glad to have had one's day in court." So obviously she's already talking about herself in the third person. It's always worrying when you do that, Josh. When you're talking to yourself about the third person, you either think you're much more important than you are, or alternatively, you're disassociating from reality. In this particular case, I think you're probably both.
Well, I was going to say, if she's doing that, you could join the Green Party. She'd fit right in.
There you go. And she also said, I think Maori leadership, and this is the fascinating part. This woman is not just a hypocrite, Maramino Kapa-Kīngi, but she actually doesn't understand what a walking verbal contradiction that she is. I've just given you her verbatim quotes about how she perceives the justice system, which she's now employing to its enormously colonial degree, to even getting the most expensive KC it seems that she could possibly find in Mike Colson. No. She then says this, and this is, she comes out of the court, right? So she's just had a lawyer sitting there arguing, blah, 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 that I want to be reinstated and I want to go to the AGM at Rotorua this weekend and I want John Tamahiri out as president, all right, blah, blah, blah. And then she comes out and says this, I think Maori leadership, this is Maori leadership, right? It requires a certain way of being in practice. And from my experience, those things at Te Pāti Māori aren't evident. Te Pāti Māori Secretary Lance Norman, who was there, John Tamahiri's overseas on a holiday. I know. Isn't that ironic? Not due back into the country for a while. So Te Pāti Māori Secretary Lance Norman, who was in court case, said, well, we hadn't been given the opportunity to sort things out face to face, which is the Tikanga Māori way, before the media and then the social media hit us as a consequence of Maramino Kapa-Kīngi and of Takuta Ferris going public. Radich's ruling is interim only. The substantive hearing isn't. Now, wait for this. The substantive hearing isn't until the 2nd of February next year, only 4 days before Waitangi Day. So there you go. And the allegations that came back against her essentially was that Kapa-Kīngi had used a dead woman's, that's Takutai Kitash Kemp's electorate funding for her own selfish purposes. And there were suggestions of nepotism that were canvassed in the court case yesterday, when you just got to say, dear Lord, John Tamahiri's lawyer is having a go at Kapa-Kīngi over nepotism. You know, how ridiculous can this get? So there you go. That's the background to that case. I have to say, if this is Maori leadership, if this is Tikanga Māori, if this is the Maori way of settling disputes, employing the most expensive English-based colonial oppression KCs that you can to argue for justice to be delivered, then goodbye Tikanga Māori having any influence in our justice system, eh? If the primary proponents of it, the political agents charged to deliver it, have to go to an English-based court of law to seek colonial justice against each other, then let's abandon the whole notion that Tikanga Māori can form any part or parcel at all of our justice system in this country. At the end of the day, don't judge people by their words, judge them by their actions. And Te Pāti Māori's sabotage of Tikanga Māori and its role in the justice system, I think, is complete. And it's a complete end in itself.